Okay, I do have a little quote here. It's a truly great library contains something in it to offend everyone. Across the United States, including North Dakota, libraries and schools are increasingly becoming the focus of book challenges by community members and organizations within that community. Sometimes these challenges can lead to very public and heated discussions within our communities. As libraries and people in the library profession, it's time to consider and to prepare for similar local challenges. So this webinar is going to be a kind of a basic overview of book challenges and also talk about how the North Dakota Library Association's Intellectual Freedom Committee and how staff on the North Dakota State Library can assist you with that challenge process. So I got a couple different definitions up here. A challenge is an attempt to remove or restrict materials based on the objections of a person or a group. And so, a challenge would be coming from an individual or a group of individuals to a particular library, a school, to, either have a book removed or restricted. A ban is an attempt to remove those materials entirely, and it's usually by a government entity or a governing body. So, maybe a challenge would be a challenge to one school, whereas a ban is the whole school district made a decision to ban the book throughout the school district. Or, in the case of some states, in Texas and Florida in particular, they're looking to ban books in schools throughout the state. So every patron has the right to raise a concern or question about the resources in the library. That is a right of the patron to question materials in the library. And a library user with a complaint should feel confident that their concerns will be taken seriously. And most of these book challenges are usually done with the best intentions. They want to protect the children, or they find something that is going to be offensive to other community members. Occasionally you're going to get you'll get a challenge to, they don't want books written by a particular ethnic group, or, we don't want any Jewish written books or anything like that. But most of them are done usually with the best intentions. And challenges can come from groups, or they can come from individuals. Sometimes they are national groups, such as Moms for Liberty is one that's recently been popping up. Other times it could be coming just from a particular person. So some of the common book challenges and reasons is inappropriate sexual content. A lot of these are the LGBTQIA plus content, such as genderqueer is one of the ones that is being challenged this year heavily. Sexual content, let's talk about it. This one is being challenged in our state in 2 public libraries, on Valley City, Barnes County Public Library, and the Dickinson Area Public Library. Promotion of critical race theory. This is a hot button issue. And these are 3 titles that have been challenged in the past, are currently being challenged. How to be an Anti-Racist, the 1619 Project, Ruby Bridges Goes to School. These are books that are being challenged on the basis that they're promoting critical race theory. Blasphemy in the Occult, blasphemous language. Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses, even though this is an older title, it still gets challenged. In fact, he was just recently stabbed over his book at an event. And so this is still a hot button book for particularly people in the Islamic faith. And then Harry Potter has been accused of promoting witchcraft and Satanism and belief in the occult. That is a common book that gets challenged for that reason. And some books get challenged for offensive and racist language. Huckleberry Finn gets challenged a lot because of the racist language used in the book. The hate you give, people have objected to the profanity and the anti-police messaging that's in the book. So these are common books and common reasons why book challenges do happen in schools and public libraries. So what does a patron doesn't have the right to do? Really disturb other patrons' use of the library. I don't know if anybody's seen the video of, it was a drag queen story time in a library, I believe in California, where several members of the Proud Boys showed up and were screaming and yelling. And I mean, they don't have the right there to disturb other people's use of that library. I think they were eventually escorted out and trespassed. They absolutely have no right to verbally or physically abuse staff. Absolutely no right. And they have no right to destroy library materials. There is a movement called Hide the Pride, and that's when a library has a display for Pride Week of LGBTQ1A plus books on display, they'll go check them all out and then throw them away. No, they don't have the right to go and do that. Nor do they have the right to come in and say, you know, we took those books and burned them. You know, they have no right to destroy library material. So steps you can take when a patron wants to challenge a book is keep calm and don't get defensive. You know, you want to make sure that you want to pay attention to things like your body language. You don't want to stand there with your arms crossed. But yeah, you don't want to escalate the situation. You want to listen respectfully. You want to try to elicit the specific reason or reasonings of their concern. What issue do they have with the work? What specific actions would they like to see happen? You can offer your assistance to find something that better suits their tastes and needs. I've done this personally at the reference desk. We had a patron that didn't want foul language in a book, came back, said, this book's full of the F word. You know, I was able to use Novelist and find materials that was more suited to their needs. And then didn't contain the F word. And so, you know, you can offer your professional assistance to help them find something that they may want. And so if they insist that the book should be removed, you can try to explain to it that other patrons may not have the same perspectives on the materials as they do. This is something else that I've done at the reference desk. I had a person that wanted us to, she didn't like the imagery and some of the scenes in the book Color Purple and thought I should throw it away. And, you know, I explained that, you know, some other people would want to read that book. You know, and if they're concerned about a children's or young adult resource, you know, you could try to explain to them that as parents or guardians, you play a major role in guiding your children's reading and library use. You know, it's not up to us as librarians to monitor what their kids read. It's up to them. You could say it nicer, but you know, it's really kind of, you know, it's the parents' responsibility to be monitoring what the children read and are allowed and not allowed to check out of a library. Libraries do not act in local parentis. And so if the issue is not resolved and a patron wants to pursue the challenge, explain the formal challenge process and what the timeline would be. At that point, you would want to provide them a copy of the collection development policy if they have a question of why you have that book in your collection, and a resource reconsideration form. You want to stress that no action is taken unless the form is fully completed by the concerned individual. You know, in the case of the woman wanted me to remove the color purple, I said, well, you could challenge the book if you like. I'd be more than happy to get you the collection development policy and a reconsideration form. She didn't want to fill out a form for it. What she wanted me to do was just to chuck it in the garbage can, which of course I didn't. You know, you want to explain that the submission of the completed form will trigger a formal reconsideration process, and the document signed will become part of a public record. And so you want to make sure you explain the process thoroughly. You want to be respectful. You don't want to get defensive. You don't want to, again, you want to make sure you be mindful of your body language, don't roll your eyes, that sort of thing. Be respectful of it. After the conversation, you want to take notes, and please keep in mind that these notes may become public record. And so, you know, don't write down, you know, screaming Karen came in to complain about a book. You know, you want to be professional about it, and you want to keep the principal, the director informed of the entire process. Make sure they know what the challenge was about. Make sure they know who was involved. Make sure you share the notes with them, whether or not you were able to resolve it without going through the formal process. That sort of information is what you want to convey. So what can you do prior to a challenge? This is kind of the preemptive part of the presentation. Is you want to have clearly written collection development policy and reconsideration policy and forms. You want to make sure that you look at these forms often, make sure they're up to date, particularly your collection development policy, your reconsideration policy, what the procedure is going to be. You want to make sure your forms are on hand. You want to make sure everything's up to date. And not only up to date, you want to read over and make sure it makes sense, and yet you're still following these policies. You want to educate your staff and your library board, your school board on the reconsideration policy and the procedure. You want to make sure everyone on board knows what's going on with the challenge. You want to, if you have a chance, you want to take some customer service training. I'm going to switch gears here and share another screen. And there's a couple of things in Niche Academy that I do want to point out. They're under the Library Directors, Library 101 Library Directors section. We've got dealing with complaints and challenges. This is a tutorial that you can watch. We've got First Amendment audits in the library. We've got material challenges, interacting with a complaint about library materials. These are all good tutorials that you can watch on your own. We also have, under library staff training and development, I have a whole series on how to deal with de-escalation, how to handle angry customers. So again, all these tutorials are available for you to use. They're all in Niche Academy. And so again, there's some great training opportunities and professional development in Niche Academy. It deals with angry patrons, dealing with how to de-escalate a situation, how to handle a collection challenge. To prepare for a challenge, you want to respond quickly to the individual. Don't leave them hanging. Once they fill out that form, you want to acknowledge that the reconsideration form has been received. You want to restate what the process in reviewing materials, and you want to provide a timeline in the review process. I do want to speak a little bit about timeline. You don't need to include dates or specific time frames. And so if your timeline says, we'll get a committee together to review the materials after the reconsideration policy has been received. I mean, that's basically what you do. You don't want to say that we're going to review the materials in 14 days, because you're going to be held to reviewing the materials in 14 days. And if somebody went on vacation, or if it's a book like the 1619 project, that's a 600-page book. And so if part of your reconsideration policy procedure with your committee is to read the book, you have to read that book. It's a 600-page book. So you're going to have to, if you're saying 14 days, you're going to be reading it a lot. Every spare moment of your time is going to be reading that book. So you want to review your reconsideration request carefully. You want to make sure that the form is completed, by the individual with personal concerns or as a person representing a group. You want to look at the reasons for the challenge. One of the big questions you want to put on your reconsideration form is that you want to find out if they read the entire book or just specific parts. And so that's one question you could put on your form. Did you read the book in the entirety or only specific parts? If it's specific parts, have them list the pages that they're objecting to. What actions are they seeking? Are they seeking to have it removed? Restricted? Do they just want it moved to a different location or labeled somehow? You want to prepare the documents for your administrative committee, your board members. You want to include the book's title, a summary of the plot, selection criteria met by the resource. And so you want to tie it into your collection development policy. A list of reviews, hopefully positive. Awards it received, a brief summary of the reconsideration policy. You might also want to include your circulation statistics for the title and how many other libraries in the area of the state own the item. And then you need to follow your library's reconsideration policy exactly, even if it's outdated. Again, this goes back to you want to review this policy often. So if you pull it out and it's 10 years old and it says that you're going to review the book in 21 days, then you're going to have to review the book in 21 days. If it's a 1619 project, you'll be spending every waking moment reading the book. And so, yeah, you want to make sure that you're following that procedure exactly. Determine if the resource meets the selection criteria in the library's collection development policy. When you review the material in question, decide whether the resource or the material will be retained, restricted, moved, or removed. Then you want to send a written letter informing the initiator of the challenge of the decision of the committee. A couple points here. You want to address the letter to the individual. Don't make it impersonal. Don't do a form letter. You want to address them by name. You want to explain how they may appeal the decision and inform them that their appeal will become part of the public record. Again, you want to make sure that they realize that this is part of if it goes towards the library board, it's falls under public record. You want to update your workers in your library or your school about the reconsideration that's going on. You want to be aware of any potential of open record requests. And so keep all personal opinions, emotional responses out of all official communications. This includes email, this includes chat, this includes texts. I mean, anything that has to do with this challenge could be a potential for an open records request. Paper and electronic documents can be obtained and viewed by anyone who submits a request through proper channels. So again, you want to keep your comments professional. And afterwards, you want to reflect on the experience. Did you learn something that could be applied to the next challenge? Did you garner any new allies? And if so, you want to make sure you keep in contact with them. Should lines of communications with civic, religious, educational, political bodies in the community and local media be strengthened? Was the local paper on your side or against you? Can this experience be used as a basis for library advocacy in the entire community? There's something to be said about bad press, but it's better than no press. But, is there some way you can turn it around and make it a positive impact on your library. Also, now you want to analyze the reconsideration policy for any weaknesses, omissions, anything that can bolster your reconsideration policy or your collection development policy, and then implement those changes. Next section is on reaching out for help. We have, right here at the State Library, we do have 2 people working in our library development department. Monica Struck is our public library specialist, and Tammy Kruger is our school library specialist. And if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Monica, currently working in Dickinson, and I, just happy to help out if you're, wanting to revamp a collection development policy. If you have a challenge and want a friendly face at a board meeting, I can do that. I'm doing it at the Dickinson board meeting tonight. So, I'm here. I'm happy to help.
All right, I'm Tammy. Basically the same concept as what Monica just said, except I'm on the school side. So if you have any questions or concerns, or you find yourself in a challenge and it's quite frankly kind of freaking you out, please contact me, contact the state library in general. These sort of things can be intimidating, and take the support that you can get, because that will make or break the whole situation.
All right, thank you. And again, one of the things our 2 library development specialists can do, they can contact our state librarian, Mary Susie, on your behalf. And so if you want to funnel everything through Tammy and Monica, they can get definitely the state librarian involved in your challenge. They can contact the Intellectual Freedom Committee on your behalf. And again, they can help you with writing, updating collection development policies and reconsideration policies, and provide training or resources to your staff and trustees on book challenges as well. Next up, we have the North Dakota Library Association's Intellectual Freedom Committee, and I have Emily Rose, our Intellectual Freedom Committee Chair.
Hey everyone, thank you very much. Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we do at the NDLA Intellectual Freedom Committee. We are ramping up right now. Previously, the committee was just Rita out in Dickinson, who is, while she is fantastic at intellectual freedom, she was just one person. So now that we have a full committee, we are starting to expand out on what we do. Right now, we have available for you our resources and reporting forms available on the website. You see the address right there on the screen. Thank you for adding that, Al. And another thing that we do is we keep track of challenges in the state in cooperation with the state library. And I would like to encourage anyone to report even minor challenges. This helps us to keep an eye on trends and plan how to direct our resources. So, we don't get snuck up on it. It's also, I think it's comforting to other folks who contact us. Al, if you could scroll down a little bit, actually, thank you for pulling that up there to show where the links to the forms are right there in the middle of the page. And also I like to point out the North Dakota Intellectual Freedom Handbook for Libraries. It used to be an actual handbook, but now it's a collection of web pages, but we still call it a handbook. But that's the important links on our page there. Yeah, so reporting even small challenges, somebody comes up to the desk and complains, it helps a lot. We are still working out the best way to streamline their reporting structure, but right now, whoever you'd like to talk to is best. Al mentioned talking to the specialists. I think we'll go with that for now. And something that the Intellectual Freedom Committee can do for you, and this is for anybody Any librarian or library staff member in the state, they do not have to be a member of NDLA. We are happy to help whether or not you pay dues or not. We don't even check that. We can provide resources, advice, and moral support. And, a sympathetic ear at the very least. And right now we're ramping up educational efforts. I don't know if this was mentioned while I was out, but the Bismarck Public Library had a very successful education campaign. I'm sorry, the public schools, Misty at the public schools in Bismarck, where she got her administration and co-workers on board with the challenge process before they had to face a serious and fairly high profile challenge. And that really helped smooth out any bumps that might have occurred. So we are borrowing from her success there and working on talking to boards, to administrations. Let's see here, later on this month, I will be down in Valley City doing a public presentation on book banning because there are a number of concerned citizens who want to hear more about what's going on in their town. And so if this sounds like something that would be helpful, I am in Grand Forks. I work at the University of North Dakota. So as Monica offered to be a friendly face on the west side, I can do that on the east side as well. Fargo, Valley City, Grand Forks, anything around here, which is a couple hour car drive, I'd be happy to come and talk to your board or just show up, for solidarity when you're having trouble. And I mentioned talking to the board or to your administrators. I would tell them the exact same thing you would tell them, but I worked at Walmart for several years. And when I had an upset customer talking to me and they didn't like what I was saying, all I had to do was grab one of my coworkers and say, this customer has this problem. Could you please help us? And then my coworker would say the exact same thing that I was saying, but this satisfied the patron or the customer in this case. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm not just making things up or being a jerk or lazy or that kind of thing. They felt attended to at that point. So sometimes if in your judgment, that's the situation that's happening, this is a service we can provide for you. I believe that's all I have to say. I'm happy to welcome questions and or emails for anything that occurs to you.
Well, thank you, Emily. So here's the email addresses and contact information for Monica, Tammy, and Emily. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, seeing that there's no questions, I want to thank you for attending the webinar. And if there aren't any further questions, everyone have a great day.